What up? Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hope you guys are getting ready for the holidays. Yeah. Let's jump into it, baby. Let's go. What up? Welcome to the show, everybody. So there are some stories that don't just break your heart. They sit heavy in your chest. They make you think about your own reactions, your own anger, your own moments behind the wheel. Yep, we're talking about the behind the wheel on them freeways, baby. This is one of those stories. An 11-year-old boy was on his way to school. But what? He never made it. Not because of an accident, not because of bad weather, but because of a moment of road rage that spiraled into gunfire. Yep, that's crazy, bro. It's crazy. Today we're talking about the case involving the 22-year-old Tyler Johns, accused in a road rage shooting that killed a child who had absolutely nothing to do with the argument. That's crazy, huh? Anyways, hope you guys are getting ready for the holidays. As you can see, got the fire going, got the tree up. We in this bitch, we popping, we cracking. What's up? This episode isn't about outrage for clicks. It's about accountability, anger, and the irreversible damage that happens when emotions turn deadly. That's right, baby. I'm your host, Ben. This is Mike Manifestations Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you guys hit that like, hit that subscribe button. That way you're notified when all these episodes come out every Tuesday. Let's jump into it, baby. So let's slow this down a little bit. Talk about what really happened. Let's see. Well, I can't find some music, but anyways, you guys know what it is. But anyways, guys, so according to investigators and courtroom testimonies, this tragedy unfolded during a morning commute. Man, this kid never made it. This kid never made it to school, man. You know, a father was driving his 11-year-old stepson to school. At some point along the highway, an argument erupted between drivers. The kind of confrontation most of us have probably witnessed before or been in, but never got to this point. You know, you start honking that damn horn, you get aggressive in your driving, and things escalate. But this time, it didn't end with people driving away, flipping off the bird, getting off that exit, getting away from that confrontation, you know. Prosecutors alleged that Tyler Johns, a 22-year-old driver, became enraged and began chasing the SUV, you know, carrying the father and the child. Witnesses and investigators say Johns pulled alongside their vehicle and then a single gunshot was fired. What? That's crazy, huh? That bullet struck the 11-year-old boy. He later died from his injuries. Man, that's crazy. Let that sink in. 11-year-old boy. A child. Sitting in the back seat, minding his business, on his way to school. Maybe, you know, what 11-year-olds do. Playing on their iPad, on their phone, on, you know, watching YouTube videos, whatever it is, you know. But yeah, he lost his life because two adults on the road couldn't disengage from each other in this crazy moment, you know. That's crazy. You know, in court, emotional testimonies from family members, responding officers, and eyewitnesses painted a heartbreaking picture of those final moments. Man, it was crazy. The police officer that testified, He was literally breaking down, crying almost in that courtroom while he was testifying. You know, I mean, I know them cops see a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, but you know, who knows? He may have had a 11-year-old kid or close to that age, and you know, it just hits you sometimes like a ton of rocks, you know. But yeah, a routine drive to school turned into a nightmare, one that can never be undone. That's crazy, huh? And the main thing, you know, the questions people are asking, you know, and when stories like this come out, people immediately start asking questions, the same ones you're probably asking right now. Like, you know, why did this happen? Why was there a gun in the car? Why didn't they disengage? You know, there's so many questions that we don't, you know, have the answers to. You know, one of the biggest questions, like I said, surrounding this case is simple and unsettling. You know, why did a 22-year-old have a gun in his car in the first place? Now, here's where it's important to be responsible. At this point, prosecutors have not publicly stated a specific motive for why John was armed that day. There's been no claim that the gun was being used for work, self-defense training, or any lawful purpose beyond just having possession of it. But in this case, you know, highlights a much bigger issue we don't talk about enough. You know, in many states, it's legal for adults to own firearms. It's also legal in many places to transport a firearm in a vehicle. You know, they have the what is it? I can't think of the words, but anyways, but legal possessions doesn't mean safe behavior. You know, a gun in a car changes everything. It turns road rage from shouting into potential homicide. Anger plus access equals irreversible consequences. And when emotions spike, fear, ego, pride, you know, a split second decision becomes permanent. There's no taking it back. There's no redoing it. There's no makeovers. You know, it's crazy. Man. You know, this is where the courtroom battle begins. Prosecutors argue that the shooting was intentional. They say Tyler Johns chased the SUV, pulled alongside of it, and fired deliberately, an act they described as a road rage murder. The defense tells a very different story. They claim the shooting was reckless, not intentional, suggesting it was a tragic accident, not a targeted act meant to kill. But like I said, I mean, everything happens in a split second. Once you pull that gun out and shoot it, you know, I don't think that's an accident. And this distinction matters because the intent determines charges, it determines sentencing, and it determines how the justice system ultimately responds to the situation. Right now, what matters most is this: a jury hasn't decided yet. The evidence is serious enough that the court is taking no chances. You know, it's a heartbreaking thing, man. It's crazy how one selfless thing like this turns a whole world upside down. You know, as of now, Tyler Johns is being held without bond, a strong signal from the court that he is considered a significant risk. The judge has heard emotional testimony. The prosecution is building its case, and the defense is preparing to argue their version of events. This case is still moving through the legal system. That means more hearings, more testimonies, more evidence, and eventually a trial where a jury will decide whether this was intentional murder or reckless conduct that still resulted in a child's death. That's just crazy, man. But anyways, regardless of the outcome, one thing will never change. 11-year-old boy is gone. You know, he's never going to be able to go to school again to see his friends. You know, it's crazy, bro. But like, it's crazy. You know, stories like this remind me of something that's hard to admit sometimes. You know, a lot of people carry anger. They don't talk about it. A lot of people are one bad moment away from losing control. You know, and I'm sure we've all had this road rage and everything else and gotten, flipped the bird to somebody while we're on the, getting into this altercation, But anyways, so it's time for Mic Drop Confessions. This is a new segment I'm introducing for people dealing with things they don't feel safe saying out loud. Anger issues, relationship stress, family conflict, money pressures, or emotional overload. Everything shared here on Mic Manifestation is anonymous. No names, no judgment. Just real people, real situations, and real talk. So if anger, stress, or emotional buildup is getting the best of you, I want you to send your confessions in. I'll break it down honestly and respectfully right here on the podcast. And we'll talk about it. We'll get people's opinions. It may help you in the long run. It may help someone else in the long run. This is Mic Drop Confessions. Anonymous stories, but real talk. Hit that link in the comments. Send us your confessions, and we'll definitely get into it and talk about it, baby. Let's go. But yeah. So with that, guys, I don't know if you guys have hit up the w.com or w.gg website. Before we wrap up, I want to thank W Energy for supporting the show. When I'm covering heavy topics like this, man, I need focus without overstimulation. W gives clean energy, no jitters, no crash. So visit www.w.gg and use promo code Mic Manifestations Podcast and get to 10% off your entire purchase. Now let's close this out, baby. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said again, guys, it's been amazing. We're at 100 subscribers. We're looking to get that up even more. So this case isn't just about one person. It's about how fragile life really is. Road rage isn't harmless. Unchecked anger isn't just stress. And guns don't belong anywhere near emotional reactions. If you feel yourself getting heated behind the wheel, disengage, man. Pull over, drive away, get away from the situation. Your pride is not worth someone else's life. You know what I mean? And if you're carrying anger that feels out of control, Mic Drop Confessions is here for you, baby. Anonymous, like I said, no judgment, real talk, baby. We got it all. Drop us a comment in the link, and like I said, we'll get to your stories, whether it's anger related, emotions, relationships. I'm not an expert, I'm not a doctor, but hey, we'll talk about it here. Like I said, Mic Manifestations Podcast, bro. It's about everyday shenanigans. We don't sugarcoat nothing. We talk about what people are scared to talk about. But anyways, guys, once again, I want to thank everyone for supporting Mic Manifestations Podcast. We passed 100 subscribers, and with your help, we'll hit 1,000 soon. And keep having conversations that matter. You know, like I said, this is and if you guys would have seen this this guy, I'll put the link in the description. You know, I think True Crime covered it. But yeah, it's just I'll put the link in the description so you guys can check out the video. But yeah, this stepdad, man, he was a traumatized man. He was just lying on the side of the road, you know, saying that this guy, 22-year-old kid, had killed his son, his stepson. You know, and it's tragic, bro. But anyways, with that, guys, like I said, my name is Ben. Like I said, Mike Manifestations Podcast. Stay aware, stay grounded, stay human, and we'll catch you guys on the next one, baby. Like I said, Mike Manifestations Podcast. We out, baby. Love you guys. Peace. Happy holidays. Stay safe. Catch you guys on the next one. Yeah.
You know how we get down, chilling in the party with hoodie rats around. Could it be they love the way we talk, the way we move, the way we walk, or the way we grew? Whatever it is, they love it. California.